I noticed that my direct deposit was still going into a joint account that no longer required my authorization. I stayed after the first affair because my life was comfortable. This is not a justification. It is a condition. The house functioned. The work schedule remained stable. The payments cleared. The calendar stayed full. There was no procedural requirement to leave. At the time, the affair was already complete. It was not ongoing. There was no discovery phase. There was a statement, brief and factual. It did not require a response. It did not create an immediate operational failure. The next morning followed the same sequence as the one before it. Alarm at 6:10. Coffee prepared at 6:18. Departure at 6:47. Commute time unchanged. Arrival logged at 7:32. The day closed at 4:58 p.m. Dinner at 6:40. Lights off at 10:31 p.m. Nothing failed. We continued to share a residence. 2 vehicles, 1 mortgage, 3 recurring utility payments, 1 shared grocery account, 1 shared insurance policy. All credentials remained valid. The house was cleaned on Saturdays, laundry on Sundays, trash placed outside on Tuesday nights, lawn service billed monthly, internet service renewed automatically. There was no interruption. At work, I was promoted to a role that required longer hours but no travel. The salary increased by 14%. Benefits were adjusted. The HR file reflected the change. The joint tax bracket shifted accordingly. We filed jointly. I noticed the affair was never referenced again. It did not reappear in conversation or in writing. There were no changes to routine or tone, no follow-up questions, no corrective steps, no external review. It remained a completed event. We shared meals. We shared a bed. The schedule remained intact. The calendar included birthdays, appointments, and holidays. Flights were booked and taken. Photos were uploaded and tagged. Thank you notes were sent. Everything functioned. The first inconsistency appeared 6 months later. A bank statement arrived showing a secondary checking account I did not recognize. The balance was small. The account was labeled as operational. My name was not listed as an authorized user. I noticed it and did nothing. The mortgage continued to be paid on time. Utilities cleared. Insurance premiums were deducted. The primary account remained active. There was no immediate consequence. Weeks passed. At work, my responsibilities increased. I managed new systems. I documented procedures. I trained replacements for hypothetical absences that never occurred. Performance reviews were completed and archived. At home, routines repeated. The grocery list remained consistent. The same brands were purchased, the same meals prepared, the same television programs watched at the same times. Months passed. The secondary account balance increased slowly. Deposits were regular. Withdrawals were categorized as household expenses. There was no fraud flag, no overdraft. I remained employed. I remained present. I remained compliant. I noticed that my access to the shared cloud storage had been downgraded. Files were still visible, but permissions had changed. I could view, but not edit, certain documents. The change was time-stamped. No notification was sent. I did nothing. The annual insurance review was conducted. Coverage was adjusted. My name remained listed. Beneficiaries were updated. I was not consulted. The confirmation email did not include my address. Life continued. We hosted guests. We attended events. We maintained appearances consistent with prior years. There were no scenes, no confrontations, no explanations offered or requested. Time passed in measured intervals. The second year after the affair followed the same structure as the first. Income increased again. Taxes were filed jointly. Refunds were deposited into the primary account. The secondary account continued to grow. I noticed that the car insurance renewal listed only one primary driver. I was listed as occasional. The premium decreased slightly. I did nothing. The vehicle assignments remained unchanged. I drove the same car. Maintenance was scheduled automatically. Service reminders were sent to an email address that was not mine. At work, a reorganization occurred. My position was absorbed into a new department. My title changed. My responsibilities were redistributed. I retained employment. My role became procedural. I documented systems. I followed workflows. Decisions were routed elsewhere. At home, the same process began. Appointments were scheduled without my involvement. Contractors were hired. Payments were processed. Forms were signed electronically. My signature was not required. I remained present. Emotion remains flat. The third year began without distinction. The secondary account balance surpassed the primary. Automatic transfers adjusted. My direct deposit remained unchanged, but allocations shifted after receipt. I noticed the pattern. I did nothing. A credit card renewal arrived with a new number. The card was issued in one name. I was listed as an authorized user with spending limits. The limit was lower than before. The card worked. Purchases cleared. Shared space continued to function. The house remained occupied. Rooms were used according to habit. Storage areas were reorganized. Items were discarded. I was informed after the fact. There was no urgency. Weeks turned into months. At work, a new system replaced the one I had built. My documentation was referenced. My input was no longer requested. I executed tasks assigned through software. Approvals came from elsewhere. At home, the same structure applied. Decisions were made through systems and procedures. Calendars updated. Accounts adjusted. Policies renewed. I remained compliant. The first legal document arrived in the fourth year. It was a notice of change related to property tax assessment. Ownership structure was updated to reflect a trust. My name appeared in a secondary position. The effective date preceded the notice by 3 months. I noticed the date. I did nothing. The mortgage lender acknowledged the change. Payments continued. The rate remained fixed. There was no default. Life continued. Reduced. The affair was never referenced. It did not need to be. The system had adjusted. I noticed that my emergency contact was removed from medical records. A new contact was listed. I was informed after discharge from a routine procedure. There was no discussion. At work, my access credentials were downgraded. I could log in, but not modify. Requests were submitted through a queue. Response times increased. At home, the same access pattern emerged. Passwords changed. Permissions adjusted. I could view. I could not approve. Years passed. The fifth year followed established patterns. Income stabilized, expenses increased. The secondary account became primary in practice. My direct deposit was rerouted without my involvement through an internal payroll update I had previously authorized for administrative convenience. I noticed the routing number. I did nothing. The joint account remained open but inactive. Fees were assessed. The balance decreased. A lawyer's letter arrived regarding estate planning updates. Documents were attached. I was listed as a contingent beneficiary. The primary designation had changed. I signed where indicated. The process required acknowledgement, not consent. I remained present. At work, my role was formally reclassified. The title included the word support. My compensation adjusted downward. Benefits remained. At home, shared finances reflected the change. Spending limits were adjusted. Insurance coverage reflected new risk assessments. My presence was accounted for, but not required. No one explained anything. No one could reverse it. The sixth year included a logistical failure. A payment was missed. A utility was briefly disconnected. Service was restored within hours. The account responsible was not one I could access. I noticed the interruption. I did nothing. The pattern resumed. The house remained occupied. Maintenance continued. The lawn was cut. The trash removed. the mail collected. At work, a younger employee assumed oversight of my tasks. I trained them. The transition was documented. My role became redundant but not eliminated. At home, the same redundancy applied. I was present but unnecessary. Emotion remains flat. Life continues, reduced. The seventh year began with a legal consequence. A notice of separation was filed for tax purposes. It did not include a change in residence. Filing status was updated. I was informed after submission. Refunds were no longer shared. The mortgage remained unchanged. Utilities continued. Insurance policies remained active. I noticed the filing date. I did nothing. At work, my hours were reduced. The schedule shifted. I adapted. The routine adjusted. At home, shared routines diminished. Meals were prepared separately but consumed in the same space. Schedules diverged slightly. The calendar no longer included joint entries. There were no discussions. Months passed. The eighth year included financial loss. A withdrawal from a retirement account was processed. Penalties applied. Taxes withheld. The funds were deposited into an account I could not access. I noticed the transaction code. I did nothing. The loss was recorded. The balance adjusted. At work, my position was eliminated. Severance was processed. Access terminated. The documentation referenced restructuring. I remained employed elsewhere within 3 months. The income was lower. The hours were longer. At home, routines adjusted to reflect the change. Spending decreased. Access remained limited. The system absorbed the reduction. I was not broken. I was adjusted. The ninth year followed with administrative finality. A deed transfer was recorded. The trust became sole owner. My name was removed entirely. The effective date preceded the notice by 6 months. I noticed the recording number. I did nothing. The house remained occupied. I continued to live there. There was no eviction, no confrontation. At work, my new role stabilized. The routine set. At home, I remained present but procedural. Diminished trust became operational. Permanent doubt became background. Altered routines became standard. There was no redemption, no lesson, no growth, no closure. The final document arrived on a Tuesday. It was a confirmation of account closure for the joint checking account. Zero balance. Closed at customer request. Effective date, March 14, 2019. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want more stories like this.